The stars stretched like thin silver threads against the dark canvas of space. Hyunwoo Park sat in the control station of his rescue vessel, fingers lightly touching the holographic displays. Outside, the universe remained silent and cold. For 3 months, he had been tracking rescue signals across the Centauri region. Most were false alarms or abandoned transmission points. But something about today felt different. The ship's quantum sensors flickered with an unusual frequency, a subtle vibration that caught his attention. A small red dot appeared on the main display. Most pilots would have ignored it, but Hyunwoo was not like most pilots. He had spent years in deep space rescue operations, and his instincts were sharper than most navigation computers. The dot pulsed. Weak. Intermittent. But definitely a signal. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, moving carefully to avoid potential debris fields. The rescue vessel, named Horizon Guardian, was equipped with advanced scanning technology that could detect life signs through complex radiation patterns. As he approached the signal's origin, the surrounding space looked unusually disrupted. Metallic fragments drifted lazily, evidence of a recent conflict. Scorch marks on nearby asteroid fragments suggested weapon discharge. Something had happened here. Recently. The quantum sensors began providing more detailed information. A damaged spacecraft. Life signs. Minimal, but present. 3 smaller signatures clustered near one larger biological reading. Hyunwoo's heart raced. Rescue missions were always unpredictable. Each second counted. Each decision could mean survival or destruction. He activated the ship's protective shields, preparing for potential hazards. The Horizon Guardian moved slowly, carefully scanning the area. No immediate threats detected. But space could change in milliseconds. The damaged spacecraft came into view. Its hull was torn in multiple places, with strange angular cuts that didn't match standard weapon signatures. This wasn't a simple accident. This looked like a deliberate attack. Preliminary scans showed the vessel's life support systems were failing. Oxygen levels were critically low. Temperature readings indicated the internal environment was becoming dangerously cold. Hyunwoo knew he had minutes, not hours, to make a decision. Most rescue protocols would suggest maintaining a safe distance and requesting specialized intervention. But Hyunwoo had seen too many waiting periods result in lost lives. He had a reputation in rescue circles. Some called him reckless. Others called him a hero. He preferred to think of himself as someone who simply did what needed to be done. The ship's computer began calculating potential rescue scenarios. Risks were high. Survival probability was marginal. But those life signs kept blinking. Waiting. Hoping. Hyunwoo's hand moved across the control panel. He began preparation sequences for an emergency extraction. Special reinforced suits. Portable life support equipment. Emergency medical kits. Each movement was precise. Calculated. Years of training compressed into seconds of action. Outside, the damaged spacecraft drifted silently. Its hull told stories of violence. Of survival. Of something larger happening beyond this moment. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. This was more than a rescue mission. This was a moment that could change everything. The airlock prepared to open. The universe waited. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? The airlock opened with a soft hiss, releasing a thin mist of pressurized air. Hyunwoo's specialized rescue suit illuminated the dark interior of the damaged spacecraft. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows across broken control panels and twisted metal. He moved carefully, each step calculated and precise. The damaged vessel's internal structure was unstable. One wrong move could trigger a complete structural collapse. A faint sound caught his attention. Not a mechanical noise, but something alive. Breathing. At the far end of the main chamber, he spotted them. A woman with pale skin and unusual biological markings sat protectively around 3 smaller figures. Children. Their eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. The woman raised her hand, a defensive gesture that seemed both protective and warning. Her language was unfamiliar, but her intent was clear. She was scared but determined to protect her children. Hyan-Wu's suit automatically translated her fragmented communication. Broken words about an attack. Something about pirates. Research data. Survival. The ship's internal temperature was dropping rapidly. Survival was becoming a mathematical problem of diminishing possibilities. Oxygen levels were critically low. Radiation levels were increasing. He moved closer, showing open hands. A universal gesture of peace. The children watched him with large, intense eyes. They seemed more curious than afraid. The woman, clearly their mother, spoke again. Her voice was weak but controlled. She understood they were facing a critical moment. Hyan-Wu's rescue training kicked in. First priority, stabilize life support. Second priority, extract survivors. Third priority, preserve any critical equipment or data. He activated a portable life support generator. Warm air began filling the damaged chamber. Oxygen levels started to normalize. The children visibly relaxed. The mother pointed to a sealed container near her. Something important. Something that seemed more valuable than their immediate survival. Research data. Scientific equipment. Something significant enough that someone had attacked their ship to prevent its transportation. Hyan-Wu understood complex rescue scenarios. This was more than a simple extraction. This was a mission with deeper implications. He moved quickly, securing the container while simultaneously preparing emergency medical assessment for the survivors. The children watched his every movement. Their eyes were intelligent. Observant. The mother's biological readings were concerning. Slight radiation exposure. Minor physical trauma. But her primary focus remained protecting her children and her research. Communication was limited, but intentions were clear. They needed rescue. They needed safety. The rescue suit systems began comprehensive biological scans. The woman and children were not human. But they were alive. They were survivors. Outside the damaged spacecraft, space remained cold and indifferent. Fragments of the earlier conflict drifted silently. Evidence of violence. Of survival. Hyan-Wu completed the initial stabilization process. The woman and children could now be safely transported to his rescue vessel. But something told him this was just the beginning of a much larger story. The children whispered something to their mother. Their language was complex. Musical. Unlike anything he had heard before. She looked at Hyan-Wu. Not with fear anymore. But with a strange mixture of gratitude and something else. Recognition, perhaps. Or hope. The rescue was successful. But Hyan-Wu knew this was more than a routine mission. Something significant was happening. Something that could change everything. The universe held its breath. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? The medical bay of the Horizon Guardian hummed with soft electronic sounds. Warm light surrounded the rescued survivors, creating a safe and comfortable environment. Hyan-Wu watched carefully as the mother and her 3 children began to recover. Her name was Yunji. At least, that was the closest translation his ship's computer could manage. She was a scientist. Her research seemed important, though the details remained unclear. The children, Jaein, Muneseo, and Sukmin, moved with a strange mixture of caution and curiosity. They watched Hyan-Wu like he was both a potential threat and their unexpected savior. Jaein, the oldest child, approached first. His eyes were bright and intelligent. He touched the medical scanner, fascinated by its technology. Hyan-Wu noticed how the child's fingers moved with surprising precision, almost understanding the device's internal mechanisms. Yunji spoke softly to her children. Her language was musical, with complex tones that seemed to carry multiple meanings in each word. The translation system struggled to capture the full depth of her communication. "We are safe," she said in broken standard language. Her eyes remained watchful, studying every movement of the rescue ship. Hyan Wu prepared a simple meal. Basic nutrition designed to support recovery. The children looked at the food with intense curiosity. Their biological systems were different, but not completely incompatible with human nutrition. Woon Seo, the youngest, pointed at various ship controls. Her questions came rapidly, each more complex than the last. She wanted to understand everything. How the ship worked. Why certain buttons did specific things. Her mind seemed to absorb information like a sponge. Sukmin remained quieter. He watched the ship's external cameras, studying the vast darkness of space. Something in his gaze suggested deep understanding beyond his apparent age. Yoonji explained fragments of their story. They were researchers. Their work was important. Someone wanted to stop their research. The attack was deliberate. The research container remained secured. Hyan Wu could see it was more than just scientific data. It represented something crucial. Something that could potentially change multiple civilizations. Communication was challenging. But connection was happening. The children were learning. Observing. Understanding. Hyan Wu showed them basic ship operations. How navigation worked. How life support systems maintained their environment. The children absorbed every detail with remarkable speed. Yoonji watched her children's interaction with the human rescuer. Her initial fear was transforming into something else. Curiosity. Potential understanding. The ship's medical systems continued monitoring their health. Biological differences were significant, but not insurmountable. Adaptation was happening. Jae-in discovered the ship's small training simulator. He began running complex navigation scenarios, his fingers moving with surprising skill. Hyan Wu watched, impressed by the child's natural technological intuition. Woon Seo started examining the ship's communication systems. Her questions became more detailed. More precise. She wanted to understand communication technologies at a fundamental level. Sukmin remained observant. Silent. But his eyes missed nothing. Yoonji began sharing small details about their research. Something about genetic adaptation. Biological understanding across different species. The potential for healing. For connection. The universe outside remained vast and mysterious. But inside the Horizon Guardian, something remarkable was happening. A connection was forming. Between human and alien. Between rescuer and rescued. Trust was being built. Slowly. Carefully. One moment at a time. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? The research container sat quietly in the secured storage unit, but its presence felt heavy with unspoken significance. Hyan Wu understood that this was more than simple scientific data. Yoonji's hands moved carefully, explaining fragments of her work. Her research touched something fundamental about genetic adaptation across different species. The potential was enormous. Revolutionary. Space pirates had attacked their ship specifically to prevent this research from reaching scientific networks. Someone powerful wanted this information destroyed. Jae-in, listening carefully, translated parts of his mother's explanation. Their research could potentially solve genetic disorders affecting multiple civilizations. Healing capabilities that could transform medical understanding across entire star systems. The ship's communication systems detected unusual transmission patterns. Someone was tracking them. Searching. Monitoring their movement through space. Hyan Wu activated advanced stealth protocols. The Horizon Guardian became invisible against the cosmic background. No standard tracking system could detect their precise location. Sukman watched the external scanners, his young eyes understanding complex technological systems with surprising depth. He pointed out potential hidden tracking signatures that even the ship's primary systems had missed. Yoonji's research container contained molecular genetic sequences, complex biological information that could rewrite understanding of interspecies medical treatment. Each data point represented years of careful scientific investigation. The children understood the risk. They had seen their original research vessel destroyed. They knew powerful forces wanted to suppress their mother's discoveries. Hyunwoo made a decision. He would help them transmit the research data across multiple secure scientific networks. Spreading the information would make it impossible to completely suppress. His fingers moved across quantum communication systems, creating multiple redundant transmission channels, encrypting data through complex algorithmic patterns, ensuring the research would survive. Moon SEO helped, her small hands surprisingly skilled at complex technological manipulation. She understood communication systems at a level most adult human scientists would find challenging. The transmission began. Molecular genetic sequences started spreading across scientific networks. Each network node represented another layer of protection. Another chance for the research to survive. Outside, space remained silent. But something significant was happening. Knowledge was being shared. Protected. Preserved. Yoonji watched her children. Watched the human who had become their unexpected protector. Her eyes carried a mixture of hope and determination. The research was about more than scientific discovery. It represented potential healing, understanding, connection between different species. Hyunwoo realized this mission was bigger than a simple rescue. This was about preserving knowledge, protecting potential breakthrough that could help millions. Space pirates would continue searching, trying to suppress the information. But now, the research was everywhere. Distributed. Protected. The Horizon Guardian continued its journey, moving silently through the vast cosmic darkness, carrying survivors, carrying hope. Jaein looked at Hyunwoo. Not with fear anymore, but with respect. Understanding. Something deeper than simple gratitude. The universe watched, waiting, wondering what would happen next. Something extraordinary was unfolding. A story of rescue, of protection, of unexpected connection between different beings. Knowledge continued spreading. Invisible. Unstoppable. Would you like me to continue with the final part of the story, Years Past? The story of Hyunwoo's rescue spread across multiple star systems like a quiet whisper that gradually became a powerful roar. Jaein, Uneseo, and Sukmin grew older. They became unexpected ambassadors, sharing their story of the human who saved their family when no one else would. Their mother's research, once hidden and endangered, now transformed medical understanding across numerous civilizations. Diplomatic channels began changing. What was once seen as a potentially aggressive human species was now viewed through a lens of compassion and technological capability. Hyunwoo continued his rescue missions, unaware of how profoundly his single act of kindness had changed galactic perspectives. He remained humble, focused on saving lives, one mission at a time. Yoonji's genetic research became a cornerstone of interspecies medical treatment. Hospitals and research centers across different planetary systems implemented her breakthrough techniques. Millions of lives were saved because of a rescue mission that seemed random but was anything but accidental. The children remembered everything. How Hyunwoo moved carefully in their damaged ship. How he protected them without knowing them. How he risked everything to save strangers. Galactic historical records began documenting the incident. Not as a simple rescue, but as a moment of profound interspecies understanding. A turning point in how different civilizations perceived each other. Sukmin, now a prominent diplomatic researcher, often spoke about that critical moment. How compassion could bridge impossible distances. How a single human's decision could change entire societal perceptions. Un SEO developed communication technologies that allowed deeper understanding between different species. Her work directly traced back to the skills she learned during that unexpected rescue mission. Jae-in became a respected space rescue coordinator, implementing protocols inspired by Hyun-woo's approach. Compassion, quick thinking, unwavering commitment to saving lives. The research container that seemed so critical during their rescue became a symbol. A representation of how knowledge could survive against impossible odds. Hyun-woo never sought recognition. He continued his missions, moving through space, saving lives. Unaware that his single act had become a legendary story told across multiple civilizations. Planetary governments began developing new cooperation protocols. The story of the human rescuer and the alien family became a fundamental teaching in diplomatic academies. An example of how understanding could overcome fear. The Horizon Guardian, now a museum piece, represented more than a rescue vessel. It symbolized hope, connection, the possibility of understanding beyond biological differences. Yoonji's original research transformed medical understanding. Genetic treatments that were once impossible became standard procedures. Healing techniques that bridged species became common. Space, once seen as a place of potential conflict, started being viewed as a shared environment. A place of potential cooperation and mutual understanding. The children never forgot. Their rescuer became more than a person. He became a symbol of unexpected kindness, of hope. Hyun-woo continued his missions, moving silently through the vast darkness of space. Saving lives. Making small differences. Unaware of his larger impact. The universe watched. Remembered. Transformed. A single rescue mission had changed everything. Would you like me to elaborate on any part of this final section?